Hi everyone. Today, we're going to look at a real practical case, the return of a girlfriend. How exactly did we get results when all contact with the girl had been cut off, the guy was blocked, and the girl felt not just indifference but even a bit of aversion? Now I'll put the client's initial message on the screen. You can pause and read it. What do we have? A standard breakup caused by a drop in interest and value. A sharp drop in value always requires a catalyst. In this case, it was the girl starting a new job. Then, according to my assumptions which were confirmed, she became interested in a colleague, and her perceived value of Misha, our client, began to decline. Misha sensed that something was wrong, that she was pulling away, and started making even more mistakes, worsening his situation. The most reliable sign of a decrease in a girl's perception of a guy's value is a drop in sexual desire. Sex may still happen, but it's not the same as before. When a girl leaves, she always makes you the one at fault. Why? To avoid feeling guilty. She knows you love her, but emotionally she wind herself up, invent a reason to be offended, and convince herself it's true. Next, Mikhail and I had a consultation. We outlined his action plan, which I won't go into, but it was multifaceted. A few days later, the girl contacted him, supposedly to pick up the rest of her things. Over the years, I've developed strategies for each situation, and experience helps me determine when and where to apply them most effectively. In this case, Misha wasn't the one to give her the things. Instead, a mysterious, beautiful stranger politely brought them to the entrance. Let's skip the details about where we found the girl and how it all played out. The plan was executed. Our goal was to knock the ex-girlfriend off her emotional balance, and we did. She started sending angry texts and didn't even realize that her reaction at that moment was like a small cog in the giant mechanism of our plan to bring her back. Of course, we didn't respond. We ignored her, because I knew she'd regret the things she wrote. But for that to happen, we needed to create the right environment by not giving any reaction. By the way, this is a classic female manipulation tactic. It's called provocation. It's when a woman fuels conflict, and then when the man reacts emotionally, she blames him, and he ends up apologizing and submitting. Each time he does that, her perception of his value drops further. Then we took a pause. Yes, you heard right, a pause. I know some guys with fragile minds are probably convulsing on the floor right now, kicking their legs. But friends, time works in our favor. Memory always leans toward the positive. From practice, the nostalgia process usually begins around 3 weeks after complete contact has been cut off. This works with all women. But what do we need for that? First, complete and total cessation of all contact. Second, the context in which your communication ended. That last meeting, text, or call, it must be a solid foundation. If the ending was bad, for example, she told him to leave her alone, that's not suitable. In that case, we'll create a better one ourselves. Now, here's an important point: how value increases. Falling in love doesn't just happen, we do it ourselves, with our own thoughts. Every thought, every fantasy, every memory, every bit of jealousy or imagined future, they're all bricks in the skyscraper we call love, value, or emotional dependency. Each client receives a text guide with 20 points. By following them, we can lower the emotional value of a girl within 2 to 3 weeks. I'm not saying you'll be completely indifferent, but you'll be sleeping better, eating normally, and not thinking about her daily. At the same time, we make her think about us constantly. What kind of girl gave him my stuff? Is he cheating on me? Does he still love me? Maybe I was wrong to say those things. The more time passes, the more it gnaws at her. 3 weeks later, we add a few high-quality new photos to social media. We enable likes. Knowing this girl has a complex about her small bust, we add 1 or 2 buxom girls into the photos. But wait, you'll say, the girl has a new boyfriend. Isn't it over? Friends, there's a golden rule in love triangles: the one who leaves the triangle first wins. Even in her new relationship, routine will settle in, and any dissatisfaction she feels will grow. Meanwhile, our story of Misha is becoming more appealing. Eventually, the girl removes Misha from her blacklist, a significant first step. Emotions continue to build like a snowball. What does removing someone from the blacklist mean? It's not an invitation to write back, so we don't. The next day, she texts, I'll show the message on screen. You might get the false impression that she just wanted closure and to move on. And maybe that's what she thought. But people feel guilt, and only our lack of reaction can magnify that. The next week, she doesn't reach out. But then Misha says, it's her birthday. We plan a soft provocation, a modest bouquet of flowers, sent anonymously. Her thoughts start racing. Who sent this? Why is he silent? Could it be him? Those questions pile onto her existing emotions. She reaches out again. She sends a magnet, a like, or message. We ignore it. Before you start commenting, this won't work. I tried it, let me walk you back through the steps. We knock her off emotional balance. We frame her as the guilty one by making her lash out in text. We ignore her completely. We continue subtle provocations. One mistake, just one, will ruin everything. And now, the best part. After a few days, she herself calls Misha and says, why aren't you calling me? What should he do? I told him. If she calls again, pick up and ask her, what made you decide to call? If she gives some vague excuse, say, I'm a bit busy right now. I'll call you later. Of course, we don't call back. Half the job is done. She wants to reconcile. Now we must carefully script the reunion. This is like soft dough. You can shape it into anything, but it's not a finished pie. What do? We plan a meeting. We tell her, I'm ready to hear you out. Never meet on neutral territory like a cafe. Never start texting or calling too much. Let her come to your home. When she apologizes, and she must, we don't rush to hug her or act too emotional. We praise her. You did well to decide to make peace. You reward the dog with a bit of cheese, and next time, it'll be easier for her to do it again. Friends, I want you to understand. This is just a grain of information, bits and pieces. No article, no video, not even mine, will return your girlfriend. Most guys don't even understand the mechanism of female emotions, let alone how to rebuild love practically. Let's be honest, most men believe that creating comfort will make a woman love them. With beliefs like that, how can we even talk about mastering the complex process of reconnection? In about a month and a half, we completely reformatted Mikhail's understanding of relationships. He took the process seriously. But if you're still looking for a magic button, an easy fix, a one-tip trick to get her back in a week, maybe this isn't the path for you. I like a saying, don't start unless you plan to finish.